Hello everyone. We are working with the different domains, which includes life sciences, healthcare, telecom, supply chain, right? And as well as we used to work with different use cases, complex projects, small use cases, right? And the major, I feel the major thing is code review, right? So how does code review happens is peer-to-peer code review happens. So that is one thing. And second thing is our leads manager who are there, right? They should do the code reviews, right? So what they will check mainly few things are including message box, and there is should not be a commented box, right? Commented messages, so those, and annotation, every proper annotation should be there, right? And there are some again I feel there should not be any unused variable should not be there, right? There are like this, there are multiple different rules are already there, right? So we can customize those as per our requirements, right? So from these I feel uh, we should not do those code reviews manually, right? In 2026 we should not do this. So I brought something, a new idea, where using a workflow like a analyzer, we can bring up one automation, okay? So that we can bring up as a tool, or else we can enhance those things in the future stages, okay? So uh, let's start with this. So let me open with the workflow. What I prepared is, so this is an UiPath Studio, right? So the mainly we have to go to the home page, and we have to click on design, and we have to go to settings, and we have to click on design. There is something called export analyzer results. Okay, we have to enable this. Okay, why we have to enable this everything is mainly for each and every code, right? What we do, right? So we used to do analyze file. Okay, let me do this. Okay, so in analyze file I found some changes, right? So there are 29 warnings and 0 errors, okay, and there is a one message, right? So this is how like workflow analyzer works, right? Here what we able to get it mainly, like is there any like errors, valuations against this rules we whatever we define, right? Again, we can customize those rules. That is not an showstopper for us, okay? So coming to this, I can bring up the path where I have like this UiPath workflow analyzer is placed, right? So there is something called data analyzer, right? Here the output will come right over here, okay? How it works is mainly like when we do the analyze file, right? Okay, was already I did analyze file, right? So this kind of output, it will be like it in a form of a JSON, okay? So this there'll be few things, parameters like the rule ID, rule name, severity, and error description will be in place. Okay, so main motto is bringing up this workflow analyzer scoring automation is mainly to find out the score and how many valuations happened. Say for example, if you have around 75 different rules are there, out of 75 rules around two rules has failed. Okay, so the score, the calculation, it will be done by the UiPath, okay, and it will represent that into output into the Excel format. Okay, again, if we need in Excel, we can bring up the Excel. If we need in a SQL, we can bring it up the databases right over there. Again, there are multiple different enhancement we can work on. Okay, so let's start, not wasting any time. So I'll just walk through the code. Okay, so we'll able to understand our correlate to your codes. Okay, so I just brought up a log message. What I did is I using read text file, I am reading the JSON. Okay, so that JSON, where we can get it, mainly we can bring up JSON here from dot local. Okay, you can use just dot local. Will there is something folder called dot analysis. Okay, you can click on this. There are multiple JSON files will be present, because how many times you were just hitting this, right? Okay, you are hitting the analyze file whatever, right? So that much of time it will be like increasing one by one JSON files right over here. Okay, the I can just open and show. Here is a JSON file already showcase with you guys, right? Okay, let's start. So this is here I'm just reading the text file, right? So and bringing up the deserialized JSON array. Okay, why I'm bringing up this to convert JSON dictionary to the string, right? It will be an object, those things in parameters can come into place. So how I can bring this deserialized JSON is using managed packages, and there is something called UiPath.web-API.activities, right? I brought the data from here, right? And I'm just using write line whether data is coming properly or not. I'm just looking into it, and I'm using build data table. Why I'm using build data table? I want few details, right? So I want to need like a rule ID, severity, and rule names. Okay, again you can customize those things again as per parameter whatever things, right? If there is something called error description, severity, right, parameters, there are multiple things are in the JSON, right? We can bring those also in the parameter, right? Okay, for next I'm looping those into one by one, where error description count should not be increased by one. If it is increased by one, then it should add a row. Okay, it should add a new row where JSON string is currently in place. So what I'm bringing up here, so rule ID, rule name, severity, right? I'm bringing up these three things as of now, the as per the requirement, and I'm storing it on one of the data table. So has a DT rules. Where these DT rules come from? Using the data table, data table. Okay, and if it is count is not matching, if it is not greater than 0, then automatically it shows a right line. Okay, and again here we can use a multiple things. Okay, where we want to bring up this output, those things. Again I'm using, there is something called multiple assign. Why I'm using multiple assign is so bringing up few things: total rules, total valuations, and score. Okay, for total rules there is a one value I put on, for valuations one thing, for score one thing, right? For score I can just explain in a very much short way. For score I use the total rules minus total valuations using like one of the library function cdbl and total rules into 100. Okay, from this I can bring up the percentage. Say for example, if you have around 100 rules, there are around two failures happen, right? So the score should be more than 90% right over here. Okay, because only two has failed, right? The score should be in more than 95 percentage. Okay, and those will get to know in output. Okay, how things will come into place. Again I'm using a build data table. Why I'm bringing this up? In the output I'm bringing up metric and value. Okay, in metric what it happens, mainly rule ID, rule names, right? And I feel failed rules, right? Statuses, those will come into the metric. And value, what is the value with the respective statuses. Okay, so those are into place. I'm using multiple data row for one of the like pass case, fail case, right? Okay, and there is something called assign. As I already told, if this is if it is more than or equal to 80%, it should show as a pass or it should show as a fail, right? There are few conditions I passed on. Okay, and again I'm using add data row. I'm bringing up the status here, right? And again once this is done, I'm bringing up output in a right range workbook. Okay, so here the data will be stored right over here. Okay, so not to waste more time right over here, let me try to run this whole code. Okay, and let's see how the output will show. Okay, let me bring up here. Okay, let currently bot is running. Okay, currently completed within less than 5 seconds. The bot has generated the output. Okay, let me open this. There is something called workflow analyzer output, right? Let me open this. Okay, as I already told, there is something called metric and value, right? How many rules are present? So there are 54 rules are there. There are failed rules are 2, and score is 96%, 96.29. 62, right? Again, we can bring up this value to the lesser value, 96.30, right? And the status is pass. Okay, again, say for example there are 54 rules. If the 30 rules are failed, it will not cross more than 80%, right? It will around 50-60% will be score, right? And it will be showing as a fail, obviously, right? So this is how I'm the captured this data here. And in sheet 2, what I brought is rule IDs. As per the rule ID, the severity rule name will come into place. Okay, say for example there is something called rule STMRD 007 008, whatever the rule ID we already given. Okay, there is something called unused variables, right? It might show an error, right? So like this the data will be reflecting right over here, right? So this is the output. So what is my main motto is bringing up rather than doing the code review manually, if you have automated that one, it will help the developers to reiterate the whole code and give the I feel give the good number of results. Okay, so this is all about today's session. And if you feel like if you have any questions, please bring up those questions or the comments, and share this to your peers, so able to they can correlate to with their automations onto day-to-day life. Okay, thank you so much everyone. See you soon in the next video. Thank you.